So I'm here. I hope someone else is here, at least. But I guess we'll see. I do hope someone else is there. And I'm not making a huge fool of myself. But I guess we'll see. Hi everyone. I think we do have some people watching, so hi. Let me stop the music, or at least make it a little quieter. And we can go on. Okay. I can see there's 6 of us now, so I can get to work, I suppose. You can write to me on the chat. I have enabled hi. That's okay. It's a really cool account name, the Skeptic, the Skeptic Bros. That's nice. Okay, I'm really happy you guys showed up, because I was sort of thinking I'm the only person who's insane enough to do this on Sunday morning, and it's good to know, we can be insane together. And I think, well, it's 10 UK time, 11 Barcelona time. I'm in Barcelona myself. I wonder where you are. But let's see. I'm glad. I'm really glad. Okay. So I was thinking, to get the disclaimer out of the way, not an expert, not a lawyer, but, I think I'm a reasonable person. I do think I have some common sense. So I think if we go through this, like from the beginning, and we just do it, and we'll discuss it step by step, I think this might be, helpful. Let me know at any point if anything is unclear or if you have any doubts, and we'll just try to solve them, I guess, as we go along. So let me see. Let's just go into ICO.org.uk, right? ICO registrations, and let's see the register. And we have, I'm just flipping between the chat and this. I wish I could share my screen, but I'd have to use Google Hangouts for it, and I don't have it tested enough. But if we go into the ICO main site, we can see the register button. And I was thinking to go through a registration step by step, hopefully solving, any doubts. And maybe we could get through the self-assessment first, the quick self-assessment, because a lot of people seem to have, a lot of thoughts on, who they are and what business they're doing. And a lot of people, I've heard a lot of comments that people don't need to register because, they've done the assessment. So I was hoping we can, more or less do it together. And I'll go over every point, with you, if you like. So let's take a look. Okay, so registration self-assessment. I'm going to read out the text. It's not copyrighted, or at least, it is, but we can't share it because it's public information at the same time. So if there is something that's, copyrighted and I won't be able to share it on YouTube, I'll do my best to, link it via email if I'm able to do so. If not, I'll point you towards it so you can find it yourself. But, registration self-assessment. Under the DPA, Data Protection Act, individuals and organizations that process personal information need to register with the Information Commissioner's Office, which is ICO, unless they are exempt. By going through the following questions, you will be able to decide if you, as an individual or on behalf of your business or organization, need to register with the ICO. They're telling me this will take 5 minutes. I hope so. And now, I see the first hurdle here. Okay, Christina, I think that's fine. If you have any suggestions at any point, do feel free, to tell me. So now we have the self-assessment, and the first hurdle is the personal data. Because what is the personal data? There is a definition later on. I think I've seen it, but let's just keep it in mind for now. Do we use CCTV for the purposes of crime prevention? I have CCTV on my Spanish house. It's rented, but I don't use it. So I'm going no. If you go yes, I can tell you right now, it will tell you to register. So if you have, any CCTV that you use, you have to click it. But I don't, and it takes me further, and it takes me to the question: are you processing personal information? And it defines personal information as any detail about a living individual that can be used on its own or with other data to identify it. So that would actually mean what people say, and what Robin said, our speaker, that what people say is business data. As long as we can identify people by their business data, it's personal data. That seems to be the case. You're free to, to shout at me, or you're free to argue it. I welcome it. I'm actually hoping you will argue it because, I'll ask you to cite sources and we'll go there and we'll just, try to make sense of it. However, let's just see, for myself, I do. Because my situation is, I'm with ECPD as the business operation manager, but I worked as a translator actually for many years. And I do still have the company, and I do still process some personal data. So in fact, I'm going to go yes. And by processing, we mean any following: obtaining, I do it; recording, well, yes, in my email box; storing, yes, I never delete emails. Well, now I have to, but I never used to do it. Updating it, not so much, and sharing it. No, that doesn't happen. I don't share the personal details with anyone in the business capacity. I share it with with the CPD webinars, and that is that. So I do process it. Let's go further. Let me just double check if we don't have any suggestions. Oh, I'm very sorry about it, but look, this is going to be taped. This is being recorded. I'm going to leave it on the site so people can, watch me flail. But if it's horrible for you, then we might just go, you can show up on Monday evening if you'd like, or write me an email. I'll be glad to help. So, do I process the information electronically is the next question on the ICO registration. And the guidance says, answer yes if you process the information using computers or any system that can process the information automatically. This includes CCTV systems. There you go. That's why they tell us that we have to, because CCTV systems, my face is my personal information apparently. So, digital cameras, smartphones, credit card machines, call logging and recording systems, clocking machines, and audio-visual capture and storage systems. We are, I think, all of us are linguists in some capacity. If we're not, you can feel free to speak up and tell me, but I definitely fit in. I live online. So I'm going, yes, I do process the information electronically. And 4 question. Is your organization responsible for deciding how the information is processed? Well, as a sole trader, yes, because, if I am to, let's say, create a group in my Gmail account, I'm processing this information, right? And I'm deciding. So yes. And if I do it for, as the business operations manager for the CPD, then, well, again, this is yes, because it's still my decision as the business. And this is a little bit of a curious guidance. I am to answer no if I only process information on behalf of another organization. So, I'm not sure how this works. Because, if I am a translator, Elizabeth, I'm happy to have you. And, this is going to happen again on tomorrow evening. So if anyone has any issues, fingers crossed, we're going to be fine tomorrow. If not, there's the recorded versions. If not, there is, the community, and there's me. You can write me. So don't worry. Anyway, so this is a curious question, and I think that this, we can think about it for a second, because this is, open to interpretation in the way that if, let's say, I work for an agency and the agency gives me an email, do I, as a sole trader, process the information? I should think that I process it on behalf of myself, because I do have, I think, okay, let's organize this. There is an argument, I think, here that, someone can say, if I work for an agency, right? And if the agency gives me the work, I could technically say that I only process it on behalf of that organization, right? Even if I do it on my, business email and everything. But I think this is an issue because it's insidious, I think, because if we go with the definition of personal data, and if we can identify anyone from that agency by their email and by the name, then we still have to go with yes. And this is, treating the interpretation quite literally. And this is on the ICO website. This is the guidance and the personal data explanation. So, I'll go with this because I enjoy being safe. Let's move forward. So I went with yes. And then number 5, I know that some people had issues with this one. Do you only process information for one of the following purposes? And there are 3. Judicial functions, which, we're not judges. Domestic or recreational reasons, information relating to a hobby. Well, I do have a hobby. I do have some personal information relating to that hobby, but I also process, your emails. So this is personal. So I do have to say that I don't only. And to maintain a public register. So let's say I'm required by law to make the information public available. And this is the only 3 reasons I process these informations. For me, it's a no, because I don't maintain a public register. I'm not, the law will not ask me to keep your information public, so I'm not going to. And I'm obviously processing the information relating to business, one of the 2 businesses in any case, and the judicial functions. If you'd like, I'm a little bit of a. There you go. So I'm checking what are judicial functions, just in case that, maybe we don't understand something. And no, it's just legislative, as I thought. It's just legislative functions, and this is, trials, impeachments, and the courts. We certainly don't. So I'm going with no. I don't only process information for one of these purposes. And we're going to number 6, which is also something that a lot of people raised with me. And the number 6 is, I think, let's just see. This is a long one, and this is a complicated one. So let's just go, about it step by step. This is, are you a non-for-profit organization that qualifies for an exemption? And this is something that people have written me about, and this is the main reason I've decided to do this, because there seems to be a lot of confusion. And the guidance goes, answer yes if your organization was established for not-for-profit making purposes and does not make a profit, right? So the first thing is non-for-profit making purposes and does not make a profit. Well, I don't qualify because I make some profit. And also, I wasn't established not to make profit. The idea is to make some profit. So this is the first part. This is simple. There is going to be a next part, and I'm going to go over it. So some people say that the guidance goes as follows. Are you a non-profit organization that qualifies for an exemption? The second part of the answer. Also answer yes if your organization makes a profit for its own purposes, as long as the profit is not used to enrich others. And this is something that people came out and said to me that, look, I clearly, I'm just making profit for me. So, I don't really enrich others. I'm just a sole trader. And that looks like sole traders don't have to register at all, because people had it. Let me mark yes. And this should come out as not having to register. Yes. And it immediately tells me you are under no requirement to register. And what it tells me, some non-for-profit organizations are exempt, and based on the information you have provided, you do not have to register with the ICO. However, it is important that your organization adheres to the principles of the Data Protection Act, DPA, and understands the best practice for managing information. And there is, training materials link, and, they ask me to register voluntarily, which is, I think, important. But I am going to go in this answer again. So this is, and also one thing, you have to answer no to the 6th question about, are you a non-profit organization that qualifies for an exemption? If you use CCTV for crime prevention, you can't mark yes on this question. You never know. So this also has like 4 huge points with additional information. What I'm going to do is, again, this is a public information. I'm going to copy and paste it into chat, because I think I might be maybe making a little bit of a mess of things. I think this is such a long question that we might be getting confused. I might be getting confused, So this is what we're doing. There we go. This is the question. And now I'm going to go over the points. There are 4. I'm going to upload each separately. This is first. I'll just drop it down and I'll get back to explanations in a second. Yes. Oh. That was wrong. There we go. There is a little addendum to the one before last, the one that only share the information with people and organizations necessary to carry out the organization's activities. And this is, you can still answer yes if the people in question give me permission to share their information. So, and this is complicated because this seems like you can only say yes if you fulfill these criteria. But do I have to fulfill all of those criteria? Any of these criteria? It's not for me, and I'm a stickler for language. This is not an entirely, I'm not entirely sure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for guidance. And this is immediately, it takes me to the ICO. It's just a very simple Google search for the exemptions, and it takes me to a PDF that explains. This is issued by the ICO. Let me see if I can share a link to it. And this is, I'm not sure, but what I am going to tell you, if you put this into Google Mail, you're going to find it for yourselves. And this is a PDF, and what it does is just give me a short second. Okay, this concerns the DPA from 98. And this is so let's see what it does is who the exemption is for, and are there limits on the processing for an organization that uses this exemption, and other issues for charities, and obviously any emails to ICO and so on and so forth. And again, this is for DPA, but what it says is the exemption is narrow and further conditions do apply. And this is the exemption applies to processing which is only for the purposes of establishing or maintaining membership, supporting a non-profit body or association, or providing or administering activities for either the members or those who have regular contact with it. And this includes the giving support to individuals. So, okay, so let's say what they say is under DPA, the organization that deals with either few or many individuals or on a one-off or isolated basis as a drop-in center does not qualify. And this exemption also restricts the type of personal information that a nonprofit can hold, the people that it relates to, and the disclosures that an organization can make. And this is to the only ones that are described above. And unless the individual agrees, their personal information can be released. And also the information must not be kept after the relationship between the individual and the organization ends, unless it's necessary for the purposes described above. So this, again, DPA. So DPA information is much clearer. I wouldn't qualify as a non-for-profit. I don't think any linguist would. I am recording this session and it's going to be up on the website. Just somebody asked. So, what do you think? What do you think about it? Because what I am going to say is, I really don't think that we can say, I don't know. This is a common sense approach, okay? So, if you are a lawyer, know a lawyer, or want to shout to me about it, at me, I'm sorry, to me, if you want. But to me, I mean, if I was a sole trader and this was my only job, I would never qualify myself as a non-for-profit. I mean, I make profit. Even if I didn't make profit, even if I made a loss. You think Andrew thinks the point about making a profit for its own purposes. Well, but that's the strangest thing ever to me. I mean, because what it says is the profit is not used to enrich others. So what? If I make my money for myself, I don't process personal data? Yes, but answering to the point that the organization can make the profit for itself, so the charity makes the profit that uses for the charity. I understand it. Yes, I understand it in the sense of the charity. What I don't understand, and what is a thing to me, is that people say, for example, I had a translator who came out and told me, well, look, I qualify as a non-profit under this exemption because I don't enrich others. I make my profit for myself. So, to me, it's not a non-for-profit. So I don't, I hate to say that I reject that explanation, but not for me. Does anyone, disagree with it? Because I'd really like to know. Not to yell at people, just to basically go over it in a more detail. But if we are in agreement on this, I think we should move forward. The whole goal of this is basically to eliminate any confusions of people who are here. So what do you think? Should we say yes or should we say no? Are we non-for-profits as sole traders? That's a very good argument. Yes, my work might help other people, organizations, and translation agency to make a profit. Yes, my work, yes. yeah, yes, enrich others by providing. Yes, I cook for my husband, for example. I think his life is enriched. Definitely, but in the end, I just don't think I'm a non-for-profit organization. So I think that because the whole thing is about the profit is not used to enrich others' grace. So I think, yes, the work of a sole trader translator will help others to make a profit. It's how the business works. But I think this is more about, yes, I do also think that we do make the profit and we shouldn't. But for me, it's more of a, you could technically yell at the text, but I'm going to go with no because I'm not a non-for-profit and I wouldn't class myself as such. So then we go to the next question. Is everyone satisfied? Or there we go. That's what I mean. Great. So let's move forward if that's the case. So the question number 7, is it, are you processing information for any of the following purposes? And there is a huge list of these, So let's go through it maybe quickly. Accountancy and auditing. I think if we issue invoices, then we do some accountancy, I think. Then administration of justice, I shouldn't think so. Administration of membership association records. Well, if somebody runs an organization, I should think so. Advertising, marketing, and public relations for others, which is, we sometimes do it as ECPD. If we have I see. So this is, you only have to mark one. So I'm going to go with accountancy and auditing, because I'm definitely issuing invoices. What do you think? Is anyone disputing that? Okay, so if not, okay. So I think we have also, because not everybody fully agrees with this. Let's see further ones. Advertising, marketing, and public relations for others. So if you do any marketing, any digital marketing on the side, then you definitely have to click it. Pardon. Consultancy and advisory services. This is the point where people had issues, because there isn't any linguistic services. We were badly served, I think, by the government on this one. So counsels, credit referencing, crime prevention, debt administration, education, emergency services, health administration, insolvency, insurance, journalism and media, legal, leisure, loyalty cards, mortgage, pastoral care. Personal information processed by or obtained from a credit reference agency. I'm not reading all of them, but recruitment, research, if you do any research for customers, and sometimes we do. Yes, I think training would be better suited to those of us who teach. Yes. This is also what we used to be, what we used to use for ECPD, because this is what we provide. So yes, I think that in the end, this is where we entered the waters of everybody has to do this by themselves. The way Yes, I completely agree with you, Kirsten. This is if you select other categories, yes, Avon people will be present and the translators won't. So there you go. Good job. But in the end, we knew this is a misunderstood and unappreciated profession, so this is going to be okay. I, however, don't think other is in here in the self-assessment, so I'm going to go with accountancy. And I think that there is a strong argument for this, because everybody that, let me put it this way, if you thought about hiring an accountant at one point when you were setting up your business, then I think you're doing a little bit of an accountancy. And I definitely invoice my clients, and we invoice presenters, and we do the accountancy, the ECPD accountancy, within the company. So I should definitely say that we do it. And the accountancy, I think, is part of another business to a point. And I think that this is mostly about finding something that fits you. It can, Anna. It can. The translation services can be classed as a consultancy. Yes. This is basically, I think, choosing the one that you feel your business fits the most. I think the accountancy is the sort of the last resort one because everybody does it, in my belief. But if you do, because you do consult with clients, if you class yourself, especially if you call yourself language consultant, because the title translator isn't, or interpreter isn't always what people like to hear, given that. And a lot of people call themselves the negotiators, language specialists, and so on and so forth. So if you do have a title like that, go with the consultancy. I should think I'd go with the accounting because I like the baselines. So let's go further unless somebody has a question. And I don't think we do, so let's go. And we're getting a very expected information that I need to register. And I should click now to do it. So let's do it. And I'm being told that they're having some problems with the registration form, that I'm sure you knew about it. Oh, there you go, Elizabeth. That's a very good information. That we'll get to it, but there will be an option to write in the actual kind of a service we provide. So if we do translation, and we have to click a couple of times, we'll get to it. They tell us that it will take 15 minutes to complete. Well, hopefully. And I'm going to do a mock one, if you like, and we'll go through all the options as promised. So let's go with register now. And now it's about me. I'm going to, because I waited with registering myself as myself, not as a CPD. So I'm going to go with the individual and sole trader. There is a thing that opens that's called need help, and there are registration FAQs. And they tell me it's the £35. I registered online. Will the fees change? What is there you go. What is my organization name? What organization type should I choose? We'll use this later. So they're asking me for title. I like the, let's say, marriage neutral one, MS. But then my name is horrible. Karolina Karczmarek-Kiel, if anyone is interested. How to pronounce it. There you go. And my postcode is, well, I'm in between countries, so at this point I still have my address, my UK address, so I'm going to put it in, because technically speaking, I should be registering in Spain with the Spain authority, with the Spanish authority, what am I saying? But I'm going to put in my London address, and let's look it up, and this is as usual. Yes, there we go. We have the address, and I do have another trading name. I trade as organize. So if you do have a company that, let's say, you're a sole trader, but you're called, one towards the anything other than your name, they ask you to put it in. And I have, and I think we can move forward. Am I a public authority? I'm definitely not. How much will I need to pay? We only use this information to work out the fee you need to pay. We won't publish this information on the public register. Well, okay. Is my organization a charity or have exempt charitable status? Well, no. I make a profit to do a profit. And it explains what a charity in England is. There is some guidance here, and I think it gives us basically the acts, the legal basis on which they make the assumptions. So they explain everything, giving the acts the definitions are in. So with this organization being a charity, they say that a charity in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland is an institution set up for charitable purposes only. And since we are in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland, I think we say no. Does my organization have more than 249 staff? No, it doesn't. And the fee for my registration is £35 per year. Well, you know, not too much, I think. So main contact details, which is again me. So this is the main account contact, and they want the details of the person that is responsible for data protection in the organization, and they will only use those to contact us about data protection, and they will not publish it. So, you know. Oh, this is very good, Elizabeth. She says that to select the payment by direct debit, because this will save us £5 on the next renewal, and every little bit helps. Yes, thank you. So we're on the main contact details, and I think, you know, if we're talking sole traders, you know, one-man band, then, you know, I'm my own data protection specialist. So, you know, it's me. Can I? Yes, and this is, again, I have to enter my details, which is irritating, but can't help it. I'll try to go as fast as I can. They asked me for a job title. I think this is a good moment to, you know, be creative, I suppose. I don't know what job titles you have. I do call myself the business operation manager for my little company. So, oh, Elizabeth, I haven't heard it. I haven't heard that small businesses don't need to name a data protection officer. And the form certainly doesn't give us this information. I definitely name it. I mean, only because it doesn't really change anything. They're still going to go to you. So my job title is, let's say, business operation manager. And my email, you know, everybody knows my email at this point. Let me just try and go as fast as I can. And, you know, they obviously, even ICO wants us to opt in. So use my email address to send me ICO news and information relevant to me as a data controller. I'm actually going to check yes on this one. And only because we're, you know, I'd rather know. If they send me advertisements, I can opt out. They ask me for my phone, which I don't remember. So I'm going to use, you know, the one that I do remember. And they ask me for the address, but I can use the address that I used before. We don't have to input it in. Yeah. So person completing this registration. I think this is, you know, geared for all sorts of companies. So this is, you know, who is completing this? We can use the details from main contact details. So this is good. And tell customers how to contact me. This is optional. Provide details of who people should contact to ask for information, including information you might hold about them. And I think, you know, I enjoy being transparent, so I'm going to go for it. But this is definitely open to, you know, to you, whatever you like. So again, oh, I have to input my email again. I might go against it then. Laziness. So again, address, and we can go into next. Registration details, sector and nature of work. Aha! Until now we were playing, but now we're in the big leagues. So sector, let's see, charitable, central government, criminal justice, education, la, 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 la. This is the one where we're going to click the other, isn't it? Yeah, this is the other. This is academy, accountant, actuaries, affiliates, agents, Avon representative. This is nice. Childminder is also more, you know, recognizable than a translator. dentists, career service, chamber of commerce. Quite a bit of people entered consultant on this one. So I think that if you classify yourself as mainly consultant, isn't it? Isn't it unbelievable that the languages were completely, and in a country like UK, which is multi-language? Yes. Yes. This is why we're having this thing here. This is the main reason. I think if this was clearly marked, like, linguist, you go there, there wouldn't be an issue. But, we don't. I do like to, for example, when I used to be a translator, I specialized in law. And on these things, I'd always use, I'd always, if there was legal sector and there wasn't a linguistic sector, I'd mark legal sector. So, because I was, very strictly specialized, I translated law, I translated a little bit of business, but I mainly was legal. So, I figured out this is what, explains my situation the most. If you have let's say, a business specializing in medical translation, you might go into the medical field, but this is only obviously when they're not asking you if you're a lawyer or you're a doctor or you're working for the NHS. This is basically, is it your field of work? If you translate medicine, well, who says it isn't? Especially if they don't include languages, you have to say something. So yeah, we do have to go with other, which is lovely. Does anyone have anything to say about it? Any questions? Yes. Consultancy, again, is very good if this is the basis of your business. If your title is consultant, anything about like language specialist, this is when your business proposition basically to the client is, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you. I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to explain things to you. If you have meetings with clients that explain things, you have, a strong argument to go with the consultant. Especially because you do have a very strong argument, because no one can tell you, well, but you're more of a linguist. Well, yes, but, so, we go with other. And yes, the nature of work, then details about the information you process. We now need you to tell us about the information you process. We have generated the details below based on information you have already provided, and you can make changes by clicking edit. And obviously general business nature of work, which is, that's what I do, but there we go, let's go. So we can definitely edit this. And this is where the situation is becoming a little bit hairy for us. So yes, Grace, this is definitely more, you go for consultancy more if you work with direct clients. If you work with agencies, I wouldn't think the argument is strong. But, since you can always go for other, and you can be as explicit as you want, be as explicit as you want. This is law. This is basically, it rewards, explicitly. So if the more boring you can be, the better. So there you go. The nature of work. This isn't a general business. I do office work, but when I was translating, I would personally put translation, interpreting, whatever you do. Yes. So the general business is going to go, away, and I would go with something that is, when I was a linguist, which, I was a translator, a teacher, an interpreter. I'm sure everybody knows this line of work, at least here. I would put linguistic services or language services, or I would actually go into my company mission or vision, and I would just copy paste everything that I do, because, not illegal. Oh, there you go. Translation and linguistic services, also very good. I also like this one. So description of processing. And this is something that everybody has to answer. This is why we're having these issues, because a lot of things, a lot of matters in this regulation is for all of us to decide for ourselves, and things are open to interpretation, some at least, and people do interpret them. I'll address it a little later, but what I am going to do is I'm going to go, well, this is, let's say, when I used to be a translator, the way I processed personal information is, I'd get an email from a client. I barely worked with agencies, so I didn't really bother about this one. But when I did, I wouldn't get anything with personal information on it. However, so what I've done is I'd get a phone call or an email from a client, help me, I need this translated, there is a contract that I need you to do, and I do the contract, and I'd get a call, it's like, I'm due to show up in court, can you help me? And I'd be like, write me an email, we'll go through through some things before I can help you. So this is basically how I processed things, and I think that I might be right when I think that most of you process things this way. Feel free to tell me or not tell me as you want, and do remember that this is visible, and this is going to be visible in the recording, as I said in the little tutorial. So feel free not to tell me. Feel free to write me this in an email, which is the any information that gets to me on the private channel is private. I'm never going to share it with anybody. So there we go. So they want us description of processing. And the following is a broad description of the way this organization data controller processes personal information. To understand how your own personal information is processed, you may need to refer to any personal communications you've received, check any privacy notices the organization has provided, or contact the organization to ask about your personal circumstances. Reasons, purposes for processing information. We process personal information to enable us to promote our goods and services, to maintain our accounts and records, and to support and manage our staff. Well, I would add something to it. Give me a moment. Is there goods anywhere? Oh yeah, goods and services. Well, I wouldn't take out goods myself. You are perfectly free to, but basically speaking, let's say I make tutorials for people. You've gotten one from me already. Is it a good or a service? Because this is, technically speaking, there is a debate. I'm, into this debate, so I'm not going to be polarizing here. But basically, if there is an argument that what you produce and what you give away is a good, then yes. We also do process data when we translate documents with personal data in them. Yes, we do. But technically speaking, if the agency gives you work, they sometimes, this is common with, I think, when I used to work, this was common with legal agencies. They would basically blank out anything related to the actual clients. I think this was maybe more towards us not contacting the clients privately, but this serves the purpose as well. But this is we do process the data to provide the service. Definitely. So whether you leave goods or you leave it out, there is an argument that a PDF you create is a service because you provide teaching, and it's digital. So whatever you're comfortable with, basically. A lot of law, again, layman's opinion, lawyer's daughter, but that's legal translator, but this is not a lawyer. A lot of law is about interpretation. You have the statute, and you have the, in England, you have the precedent, and you have to sort of base this on that. And a lot of this, this is, we're not talking criminal law. It's like, if I hit somebody this way or that way, it's, if basically you should be happy with yourself. You should be able to look into a mirror and say, this is correct, this is what I do. And if anyone asks you, provide and promote our services, this is also very good. This is a very good line, Andrew. I like it. Provide and promote our services. Yeah, yes. Very clear and to the point. So we don't have to support and manage our staff, I don't think, not as sole traders, but if we do have staff, we can. Yeah, I would. I as a sole trader, I don't have any staff. I don't even subcontract usually. So there we go. So type and classes of information processed. And we process information relevant. I would have changed as a sole trader this we to I maybe, but I process information relevant to the above reasons and purposes below it. This may include, and we have some points there, and let's go through them. Personal details. I'd say yes. Again, the definition of personal data. If you can identify somebody, it's personal. So let's see. Personal data, yes. Family, lifestyle, and social circumstances. Not me, I should say. As a translator, I was mostly. Well, as a legal translator, if I got let's say, a divorce to translate, I would be translating social circumstance. If I was tempted to leave it in, I'd maybe add a little bit of an explanation in a bracket, just to make certain. But you guys, it mostly depends on what you translate. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to reply in writing. Okay, sorry, I just had to reply in writing because somebody's had a bad connection. Okay, so let's see. So financial details. Well, yes, sometimes, because if let's say you subcontract anything, fantastic. So employment and education details. Well, I personally wouldn't because I don't have any employees. And goods or services provided. Well, if we're taking out goods, then services. Right? Right. Yeah. Yes. Financial details. Yes. If you're invoicing, you do have it. Okay. So let's see. Are we okay with this section? Can we go further? I think we can. Could employment let me see. Technically speaking, yes. Employment could relate to translating CVs. If this isn't a part of your work that, because if this is a part of your work that you find it's present, then I think yes, we can add it. That's a very clever information. Then yeah, let's do it. Again, if you feel like you're being too general, you can always add a specific explanation in the brackets in the sense of, CVs and other records. Bye, Anna. You're welcome to come by on Monday as well, if you like. So anyway, So let's go further, I think. We also process sensitive classes of information that may include, and we have 4, physical or mental health details, racial or ethnic origin, religious or other beliefs of a similar nature, and trade union membership. And this is, well, it really depends on your business. Yes, it is better to be safe. This is my basically motto. Yeah. If you're not including something, it's good to have a reason why you're not including everybody. And this is, again, personal opinion, but the country, especially UK, they don't go for small fish. And I'm not going to pretend as sole trader I'm anything else. So they're not going to try to destroy you with a fine if you're trying to do your best. This is very good. Yes, Andrew, you have excellent ideas. Yes, in the context of providing translation, I maybe say language services, maybe interpretation, if this is what you do, because sometimes people do send us information to prepare. I certainly, when I used to work as an interpreter, got loads of personal information, before an assignment. But yeah, trade union membership, yes. I wouldn't remove trade union membership because I did translate some things legal, for trade unions. So there you go. But this is, again, something that you have to sort of look at the way you work and what you translate and what you process. And this is where you try to be explicit. And even when they say that it's classes and whatever, it's always good to, for you to feel safe. It's not for me, it's for you. You have to feel, sure that you've given them, the information that is correct, and you don't feel like you're, deceiving them in any way. So there you go, that they can turn around and tell you, like, for example, oh, why didn't you tell us this, right? So who the information is processed about. We process personal information, I process personal information about our. And again, 5 groups. Employees, I don't. Customers and clients, I do. Suppliers and services providers. Well, I think that could apply if we subcontract people. So if you have a very large translation, and if you subcontract another translator, that you're sort of sub-paying for it, and obviously, I'm not going into the legalities of making the client aware of the fact or anything else, only by going by what we have to input here, right? So maybe I think it's a good idea to put, if we have a service provider and we subcontract somebody, I don't think I'd call that person an employee, but it's maybe a supplier or service provider. We also have advisors, consultants, and other professional experts. If we use those, I know some of us do. Linguists, this is when I used to be a legal translator, I'd contact lawyers if I needed clarification. So if that was the case and I processed their data, then that would be their data. They would be experts. And also complainants and inquirers. Well, yes, if anybody complains, then there we go. So are we okay with this section? Because I think it's pretty straightforward, isn't it? Great. So we can move forward then. Who the information may be shared with. And this is something we sometimes I sometimes need to share the personal information I process with the individual themselves, and also with other organizations. Where this is necessary, we are required to comply with all aspects of the Data Protection Act, and what follows is a description of the types of organizations we might need to share some of the personal information we process with for one or more reasons. This is a linguist with me is slightly baffled at this paragraph, but I think it basically means that whom we share the information with, and with a little bit of an acknowledgement of the I would, if I wasn't translating things for trade unions, and if you have any information about trade union membership, like let's say if you ever translated something for me and I was a trade union member and you knew it, and for example I used to translate trade union cards for people, I'd say that would qualify. But yeah. It doesn't influence the money we pay, so again, better safe than sorry. And this is always something that if you feel like, oh, I'm not going to process anything related to the trade union, I'm a medical translator, then or I don't know, I'm a horrible person, so now I only think like, oh, but you can always have a member of a trade union. So but it's completely up to you. Personal opinion, I don't think people are going to slap a 5,000 GBP fine on you if you translate one trade union card in 15 years and you completely forget about it. They might, but I don't think so. So this is something we're going on. So let's see. So, we have to say that we are compliant with DPA, and this is, I think, I'd leave that, because this is good to leave. And this is, we have to, okay, this is an important one, because this is something that we're saying that we're sharing. So let's go over it one by one. So first, when necessary or required, we share information with family, associates, and representatives of the person whose personal data we are processing. Well, if there is a legal requirement, because if say hypothetical situation, you translate a contract for a client, a personal client, and this client sadly dies, and then you have for some reason his family wants the contract back. What do? I'd ask a lawyer. I wouldn't decide such a thing on myself, but if it was legally required for me, basically speaking, this is something that this is a disclaimer that I do tend to add, that, when I'm asked if I am legally required to share information, I'm going to share it. I like to think of myself as law abiding. So what I would say is that I would definitely, somewhere at the end, personally again, I would put a little bit of a disclaimer that in any case that I'm legally required to share information, I'm going to share it, because this is well, I think, I'm sorry, because we're still getting, maybe I'm a little behind, but we're still getting the information about the trade union. I personally think it's for you to decide if you leave anything in or you take anything out, but I don't think you're going to be punished for saying that sometimes you process the trade union information when you don't get the trade union, apologies for my cat, when you don't get trade union clients. It is a service-based business. Yes. So now this is going to happen. Go away. I'm asking you. So this is my cat who thinks she's my daughter, and she's, yes, this is how she is. Go away. Oh, the family. Sorry about it, Elizabeth. This is, yes, I do love you. Thank you very much. She is something. She's something else. She's very there we go. I can't say no to this cat. She's a rescue, and she's been in a very bad state when I rescued her about a year ago. So now she's this way. Her name is Gapa. It's a Polish name. It translates to clumsy, basically, because she's very. So let's just ignore her. In any case, she's just going to attack my little butterflies there, and she's going to, So, YouTube cat video. Now we're having fun. So there we go. So this is the family. Well, yes, because it says necessary or required. So if it's required, I mean, I personally would leave it. Stop being a dick. Thank you. Apologize for swearing. This is a long live stream. Anyway, so there we go. Employment and recruitment agencies. Well, I wouldn't. But again, I'm really thrown by the requirement. I mean, who's requiring it? If it was legally required, I would. But if an employment agency, what kind of an information can an employment agency require from me, or recruitment agency? I personally would not leave it. Stop being this way. Just sit here. Yes, I do love you. Yes, I do. I'm very sorry. If I don't do this, she's just going to keep sitting here. And yeah, I do also think so. I can't tell you to do it, but I would do it. So there we go. Current, past, and prospective employers. Well, thank you. Thank you. She is horrible. She's truly horrible. Yeah. I don't even think, again, personal thing, I don't even think, employment recruitment agencies can demand any information from you. And if somebody, as one of your clients, asks you for a recommendation or anything, they are, implicitly agreeing to share their personal data. So, I don't know. Anyway, and it never happened to me. Current, past, and prospective employers. Well, I wouldn't share, let's say a client detail with a, future employer if this wasn't, legally required. And I don't see a situation where it's going to be. So, especially when I'm a sole trader and I don't have an employer, I have a partner, I guess. Well, this is the moment when I tell you I have 2 cats. Go away. Brother and a sister, rescued together. Fight crime. And mostly my computer. Anyway, let's get back to work. Current, past, and prospective employers. I take it out because I wouldn't share customer details with an agency. Well, I don't know. That's the thing. I don't think it would include agencies because, well, unless you were on a contract. But if you were on a contract, then what are we doing here, right? So yeah, I take it out. Personally, educators and examining bodies. Well, again, I don't see how we would do it and why there would be a legal requirement. I think again that the only legal requirement, the only sort of branch of government that can force us to, give out information is, general criminal branch. This is criminal law. You have to give up this information because it's needed for the court. You've translated something and it was, let's say, connected to a fraud. This is now needed. You have to give it up. And you will get, the legal basis for this. I would. So I don't think I don't see myself as sharing this with educators and examining bodies. Central government. Well, when it was legally required, if they asked me, then yes, the government technically could request it and make a law and get the data. Yeah, there you go. You can leave this in, but there is maybe what I'm going to say is a little bit unpopular, but what I am saying is people don't like it when you share their data. So the sort of, if I see that an organization has a paragraph like this is how many organizations we share the data with, I'm becoming very skeptical, very skeptical. So, this is something that you might want to think about as well. But basically speaking, what I would do, and what I will do when I'm registering in a bit, I'd just put in the general, what I say to my clients is, what I used to say to my clients as a translator is, I'm not sharing your data unless I'm legally required to do so, and then I'd stick to it. Technically speaking, the government, I'm not sure if HMC is central government, but basically speaking, let me see. Well, it's a department of the UK government, which we all know. I'm just checking if we have anything. There is central government website. So I'm going to go and see what they see there. If is HRMS there? Um, HM Treasury is HM Revenue and Customs. Yes, I will. I will link the Gov.uk, and what it does is it's a dashboard of the Open Central Government website. Yes, yes, yes. Central government, I think this is, anything that has to do with law, and this is something that necessary or required. This is something that I would definitely stress, because I really dislike sharing data. Because if somebody gives me the data, even if they do give it to me as a business, this is something, you can't just run around with it. I'm sure you agree with me anyway, but yeah. Yes, 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 that's what I'd say. Yes. I think this would be problematic only for people who do want to share data, like, let's say I have a business that, wants to cooperate with another business, and we want to, share the customer data between each other, I suppose. That would be an issue. I think there are ways to change the registration. If not, always, I mean, I would be surprised if there isn't. But we can check it at the end, so we are certain that we can do it. I don't think they just force you to put it. It's not rotten stone. So credit reference agencies. I definitely wouldn't. I don't deal with people's finances, and as a translator slash interpreter linguist, years ago, if I can't see credit reference agency that would. Oh, I see. You can ring them to amend it. Yes, it would be. Yes, it would be, especially when it's over the phone and you don't, you're not 100% certain that they've inputted everything as they should have. Yes, I get very paranoid around this as well. Basically, let's just make sure that when we do, input the details, we're happy with them. And it mostly boils down to being able to answer a question: why did you put this there? And if you say, look, this isn't something that I'm doing, and if this is something, let's say, for any reason, because I'm not in your businesses, so you do your things. If for any reason you do, want to share, or you feel you have to share an information with the, credit reference agency, this is a good moment to start thinking of talking to a lawyer or a specialist, because I don't think this is going to happen, by the by. So let's move forward. Suppliers and service providers, yes, for me, because if I would subcontract part of the translation, again, not going into the legalities of letting the client know and so on and so forth, but if I was going to do it, I would definitely have to share, certain personal information, and if I wouldn't, then I wouldn't. I wouldn't put it in. Then we have debt collection and tracing agencies. I treat the same as credit reference agencies. And as you know, I strongly dislike, again, personal thing, being contacted about other people's finances. So, I would never give any such an information. I mean, they'd have to, subpoena me. They'd have to, bring a they'd have to basically provide me with, very strong argument, paperwork, something that I would avoid it like the plague. And financial organizations, the same thing. I'd avoid it like a plague. I'm not sure because the bank is a financial organization, and if we are invoicing clients, do we technically share their details with the banks? I don't know. But I wouldn't. I wouldn't discount it. So maybe I'd leave the financial organizations, but I personally would add for invoicing for accounting purposes. Yeah. Oh, you're right. It does. It does. That's true. If you do want to chase somebody out and you want to employ a debt collection agency, you might share the information. That's very good. I didn't think of that. My clients used to pay. Anyway, but yeah. Yes. Yes, that's a fantastic advice. Yes, this is a very good advice to copy and paste the text for your own records. This is what I've done. So yes, definitely. Keep my advice would be keep the record of everything you can. Possibly in, 2 copies. This is what I do anyway. I have an outside and an inside backup, and I'm very, 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 very obsessive about this. So there we go. So then we can go with submit, and we can go with additional reasons. Please select below if you process data for any of the following reasons, if not already included above. Trading and sharing personal information, not for me. Providing financial services and advice, again, not for me. Undertaking research. Well, if you do research, some linguists do. Oh, well, I personally would leave it because of the invoicing. Because if I process an invoice, if I process anything or if I pay anyone, I subcontract it through my bank, then technically speaking, I do provide them with these details. So I definitely sort of provide the security and leave it. And somebody said before, this is a very, very important thing to think of it in the sense of this is only when necessary or required, not willy-nilly. I'm not going to call my bank and just say, well, oh, look, I have this client. Her name is Karen, So I personally would leave it in. You'd have to decide for yourself. And let's see what we have then. Additional reasons, right? Trading and sharing personal information. For me, it's out. Providing financial services and advice, out. Undertaking research. For me, it's out. But I do know I do know some linguists who do research for customers and provide them with let's say subject matter for information and for their use. Like if you do any cultural consulting, I'd think about it. If you research anything for the customer, if the customer, pays you or asks you to, tell them if you do any marketing. I think this could be something, marketing translation, this could be something, because if you research the target market, if this is a part of your job, sometimes. Consulting and advisory services. And this is, again, if you're going with being a consultant, then I think there isn't much choice here. But there's still a choice, because you don't technically, CCTV for crime prevention. Again, so if you do have, for any reason, if you have an office and you have CCTV, well, even if it's home office, I think there would be an argument if you have a CCTV in your home, then I think, this might be acceptable to click yes. And also transferring information overseas. Do you transfer data outside the EEA? And this is, again, and this depends, I think, mostly with the languages you work with and the clients you work with. Because if you send your data outside of the EEA, you do. Well, would you be? Well, yes, I think so. Yes, because you would, if you send, let's say, the client sends you a birth certificate to translate, and you have to send them the translated copy back, then you are sending you are transferring the data outside the EEA. If the client just sends you the certificate, but you don't agree to translate it, and you don't send anything back, then I think you have an argument that you don't. But I'd say, I personally, when I used to be a translator and interpreter, I'd say yes, because I did have some US clients, exactly, and but I worked mostly with personal clients. Let me see. Let's say yes. And does this cover all your processing of personal information? Yes, this covers. Let's say next. And for me, it just goes into other obligations. So yes, the work from US would fall under this category, definitely. I don't think, I think this, because this sort of looks like something dangerous, far-reaching, but in the end, this is mostly, because outside of the EEA, the GDPR does not come into force. So I think this is basically to see if you transfer the data outside of the, let's say, the legislation, the area of the legislation. Well, then there you go. If Switzerland isn't in the EEA, then the Switzerland is out. Yeah. I took a look at that, and yes, it isn't. But it's something that I never knew. So thank you, Andrew. You're being extra helpful. So are we still unsure about the transfer of data? That depends on you, Elizabeth. To be honest, I personally, I'd say yes. Because I'm not going to refuse a client from US on the basis that I'm not going to process his data. So this is what I do, but this is again me, and you're perfectly within your rights not to do this. Yeah, there you go. This is basically what I'd say online as cluster fudge. A lot of data, a lot of places. Maybe this is why the linguists are not, covered, because it's so complicated. But in the end, this is just something that the customer, I think, will understand. especially if you know how to explain it. And if you say, well, if you send me any of your documents, this is the personal data, and I just process it and I just give it back to you. You know, if you know what you do with the data, if you're, you have to know what you do with the data, and you have to know sort of your basis for what you're doing. And if you know this, I think you'll be fine. So let's go through the other obligations. As well as the obligation to register, the law requires organizations to comply with other rules about the information they process. Tell us about how you meet your obligations under the DPA by responding to the following statements. We will not publish this information, blah, 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 but we might contact you on the basis of the responses. So let's be extra careful about this one. So someone in my place of work is responsible for making sure we comply with the DPA. Yes or no? Well, yes. I'm going to say yes because I am. Somebody has to be, don't they? We're legally required to comply with it, so I'm going to say yes on this one. And then there is the next question. Are we all okay with this question, or are we discussing it? That's good. So if at any point you want me to turn back to something, just let me know. And I'll be doing this again on Monday evening. So, if we're still in a pickle, we can do it again. So then, relevant people in my place of work have been trained in how to handle personal information. And this is something that you have to answer for yourself. Have you been trained to process personal information? Technically speaking, if you watched the GDPR webinar, if you took any training, if you be able to prove it. Just, secure yourself with, make a little folder with like training materials. This is it. This is what, what I've done to train myself about with this information. If you're familiar with the, if you're familiar with the ICO site, if you're familiar with the Data Protection Act, give me a moment. Let me just take a look at the Data Protection Act training. So we have resources and support with ICO, and they have the data protection self-assessment. They have the self-assessment toolkits, and all sorts of posters, stickers, and e-learning to promote good data protection practice. I'm going to link it. It's under support, and I think if you do take a look, if you think, Elizabeth, if the CPD webinar and the surfing qualify, then it qualifies. I think that there is a strong argument for yes, it does, because you're taking proactive steps. So if you're basically, the best thing to do is, if you feel that you're okay, you should be okay. And you should be okay when you do have the knowledge on the subject, and you know how to educate yourself in case you have any doubts. I don't think that the law wants us to know the regulation by heart, but at the same time, the law doesn't want us to mismanage people's personal data. So in the end, take a look at the. We are having some questions about the privacy notices. I'll address that in a minute. But what I do have is, again, take a look at the posters, stickers, and e-learning thing in the link that I've told you. There are training videos, and there are webinars and podcasts about them. And there is a personal information promise, which is, I think, very good. And this is something like a little manifesto. And this is not an information charter, so this is not legally required. But it's nice to sort of be able to prove that you're being proactive about all this. So don't do things you're uncomfortable with. If you're in doubt with any sort of, if any processing of your data, if you're thinking of processing data and you think, oh, well, wait, this isn't, according to what I've said I'm doing, then, make sure you're safe. Make sure you're only processing data the way you told people you're processing data. And if you're not processing data this way, go back and amend the things. Just inform people, inform ICO. You can't call them, you can't change anything you want. People are not going to, drop on you like a ton of bricks if you're being an honest person who, who's not costing people money, who's not trying to swindle people. This is, not usually how law operates. This is not how law is supposed to operate. I can't, again, give you legal advice. I can't give you expert advice, but, I can go over this with you as a person who's possessed of, some brains and maybe a little bit of common sense. This isn't about anyone being victimized, and if people are being victimized, there are people, there is people's rights ombudsman, there are people you can go to and you can complain and you can, bring an action against even the government if you're being mistreated. Again, it would be good to consult lawyers if you're feeling like your situation is very, very complicated. This is, I'm not here to promote anyone. I'm not even here to promote ECPD webinars. I'm not here to, I'm just here to, to work over this. But, Robin's an expert. She has, you can go and register with her and go over your situation if you're being, if you feel insecure, if you feel unsure. Then this is the investment that, in security that you might want to make. You don't have to go to Robin. You can go to somebody else. But I don't know somebody else. I know Robin. So I'm personally going to go to her in a month or so just to review my situation and see what's what. But I do have 2 companies. So if I was only a sole trader, I don't think I'd feel, a pressing need to consult an expert. Again, a personal issue. So we do have the data protection, the day-to-day hygiene. We have the, all sorts of stories about it, and this is the all sorts of promises. The ICO has a podcast. So if you are interested, if you think that, your situation is complex, if you think that you do need to buy. Now everyone is going to go because this has lasted 90 minutes. Let's power through it, shall we? I don't want to, leave you without questions answered. So I'm going to say yes, relevant people in my place of work have been trained. I took an interest. Then, when collecting personal information, we will tell people how we use it. I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to make a little note because I do it, but I don't think I'm explicit enough. So be more explicit. This is very good to have. This is. I wouldn't advise ticking anything you're not ready to tick. And if you're not ready to tick it, don't tick it. Do your privacy notice first, and then tick it. Again, personal thing. I'm going to tick it. The thing about like being explicit enough, and I'm going to do it today. So if you're doing your privacy notice today, and this is 100% chance that you're going to do it, nobody is going to, if somebody asks you for a privacy notice and you have an idea how to make it and send it to them, then I personally think you might be safe. But, don't tick something when you're not, completely not ready. Let's say you know nothing about ICO, you know nothing about the DPA, and if you tick yes for relevant people in my place of work have been trained, and they haven't, don't put yourself in this situation. That's unsafe. Be safe. But I'm going to go through the privacy notice after we go through this, okay? So we have a process in place so we can respond to requests for the personal information we hold. I'm going to say yes because we do, and I think if you do, if you know, you have to know what to say to people. People say, what, if you ask, what do you do with my personal details? And you don't know, then you're not ready. You have to know. But if you just keep the details for the accounting purposes, if you keep the details, you have to have the little information charter where you say how you use the information. And if you have it, even if it's just a couple of points, in a Word file, in a little folder called GDPR compliance, then you're fine. You can answer people. You can click yes. Again, if you feel ready. We keep records of people's personal information up to date and don't keep it longer than necessary. I'm going to go with yes, and I'm going to go with please be ready and say yes, because this is important. Again, we have measures in place to keep the personal data we hold safe and secure. I'm going to say yes because I do. Again, a couple of things I'm obsessed about is keeping the data secure. So we have in ECPD, we have, a bespoke firewall that was improved to protect us. And please don't hack us. We're not huge. But we have taken all the precautions that are feasible, to protect the customers, to protect the data. I personally, take quite a bit of precaution to protect the customers I serve. So, do be certain that you're doing, the level of security. You have the level of security you are comfortable with. Yes. I do keep paper files under lock, and I keep the actual, how do I say it again, removable disk, removable hard drive. I keep this under lock as well, where I keep my digital updates. But yes, external drive as well. But my workplace doesn't have a door. I work in my house, and I work it's just me and my husband. He's not gonna pry, but it's still a house, and still the door, the room is sort of very open, and it doesn't technically have a closed door. So I do have a cupboard, and it is under lock and key, and it's actually hidden, so people don't know I have things under lock and key in this room, so they can't think, oh, ooh, what's there? So if you have a room, if you have a lock in that room, if you have your office in your house, then I personally don't think you'd have to, But again, I was raised, I was actually raised in a legal office, because I used to, go with my dad when I was like 10 or 11, and he's never used to do it in Poland. So, but this was a separate office. It was kept under lock and key. It wasn't a private home at the same time. So I am secure that the data that I do hold is secure. I feel, it's not, you can never say 100%, you can never say an evil person, a joker will not, break into your house with the, wanting to take your personal data. But I don't think it's very probable. And I do think that I'm doing all I can to secure the data that I hold. And I think that, it might be advisable you do the same. So I'm going into next, and then we have the confirmation, and we can basically go through all the data, and we can go back and improve anything that we want. And this is where I'm going to stop, because I'm not going to make a payment online at this point. Do we have any other questions apart from the one on the privacy notice? We don't seem to. So why don't I just go quickly over the privacy notice, and I'll explain why there isn't much I can do to help. Because the privacy notice is, I can't give you samples. Okay, I can't, because this is, technically speaking, the way the legislation works is that you have to make your decision for yourself, or you have to use a proper expert. So I can't do an expert's job for an expert. If you are being very unsure, if you're feeling very unsure about your privacy notice, go to an expert. If I had issues with my privacy notice, I'd go to Robin. This is something that was said on the webinar. This is, they're not going to drop on you like a ton of bricks if you're not ready by 25th. You just have to be proactive about it, and you're doing steps. You've been here. If anyone asks me and you agree, I'm going to confirm you have. This is something, again, not expert advice, but you're taking steps. Take steps. Make your privacy notice. You know what you should do? You should go on websites. What I do. Okay, let me see what ICO says about this. Okay. I don't like to say anything without being backed by the law. So let's see. There is Guide to Data Protection on ICO website. Let me see. This is it. And this is, let me just take a look. Okay. So we have this, which I'm going to link. And this is, you can download it as well. And this is Guide to Data Protection by ICO. You can go over it if you like. If you don't like, you're out of luck. You're gonna have to. But let's see what other sources are saying, okay? So there is a, give me a moment. I'm looking for a good source. And which is, something that we all know how to do as translators or ex-translators in my case. So this is, okay, I think this is decent. Give me a moment. Okay, I have two sources that I think are good. One of them I use myself. So this is just a sec. This is what I'm going to share with you right now. There. This is IT governance blog. They do sell. This is not. Disclaimer again, I'm not affiliated with anyone. Well, I am affiliated with CPD, but I'm not, again, this is not a promotional anything. This is for you. This is not for me. So this isn't anything. I'm not promoting people. I'm not telling you to go. I'm not getting anything out of this. In fact, this time is donated and I'm not getting paid for it at all. We're just doing it together and we're in it together. And I didn't feel, I don't feel morally just, I suppose. I wouldn't look myself in the mirror if I was paid for this, because we're just going over it. I'm not being paid as an expert. I'm not being paid as a lawyer. I'm not being, I'm being a friend. I'm being a person who, who wants to talk it over with you. So this is a decent one, and this is something that is, I'm going to say this is very exhaustive, and I don't want you to get scared, right? So they have a very exhaustive, huge list of things that if you want to be, extremely well prepared, you can go over this list, point by point, and just, safely go through the things that are, that apply to you. Because a lot of those won't. For example, employee privacy notice, you won't have to do this, but the privacy notice you would. And this is the definition they give. The privacy notice explains in simple words how you will process personal data of your customers, website visitors, and others. So I have very good news for you. You have already made a little bit of a plan for your privacy notice when you filled out your registration. When it said, how do you process your data? This is how you process your data. You can use it to write your privacy notice. and the data retention schedule. We all know this. So I think if you do have questions, if you doubt these sources, let me know. We can find some other sources, we can find some better answers, but I think there is also a very nice thing. I don't know if I like it though. So there is a GDPR checklist that I'm going to send, but I am going to. This is a communal thing. This is something that people worked on, as a group. The way we sort of work through it as a group. This isn't in any way, I'm not giving you legal things. I'm just giving you, I'm just giving you sources that I personally feel comfortable with. I'm using these sources for my personal registration. So you can always say, well, she's done it as well, if if at any point you're in trouble, you can put me in trouble too, I suppose. I hope you won't, though. And I don't think we are going to be, because I think we're going to be honest about it and we're going to be thorough about it. So do we have any other questions? Or should we stop tormenting ourselves on a Sunday? Okay. So I'm going to say that, this is something that we can end at this point, and I'm very sorry to have wasted so much of your time. I'm always very self-conscious when I talk to people on regular days off, like Sundays, and this is technically my day off as well. So there you go, we're all in it together. So, do write me. I'm going to be your friend over this, and if you do need any advice, if you still feel insecure, do go to an expert. Do pay whatever they want. There is don't pay them too much, but yes, do go to an expert if you feel uncertain. If you don't feel uncertain, I'm really glad. And if you do have any more questions, let me know. And have a lovely Sunday, and maybe we'll meet on Monday as well. We'll see. Take care.